If it wasn't evident from Wednesday night, the city of Cincinnati is ready to support this team if they would just have a reason.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name is Jeff Carr, and we love the Cincinnati Reds despite ourselves. We love baseball. We love talking about the Reds. We love talking about baseball, and we love talking about all of those things with you. Jeff and I have been doing it for 14 combined seasons now in podcast form. On today's show, we are going to be talking about a potential possible trade. But before we get to that trade, we're going to dig in and find out and talk about, are these Cincinnati Reds buyers or is it time to call them sellers? We're going to get into that. As Jeff alluded to, where we're going to start today, we're going to dig in on the fact that when Cincinnati has something baseball related to come out for, when this city and this team gives the people of Reds country a reason to show up at Great American Ballpark, boy, do they show up. Because it looked like, from the pictures I saw, Jeff, I'm not in town for this one, but it looked to me like opening day part 2 down at the Banks for Pete Rose night.
Easily. I mean, I got off the highway coming down 75 on Freeman Avenue about 10 after 6. And I didn't get parked until 6:45. I mean, the Banks, the area around there was just slammed with people. The stadium was packed. It was standing room only, capacity crowd, shoulder to shoulder. Anytime you walked on the concourse, if you wanted to go get a beverage, if you wanted to go get a hot dog, you were waiting. If you wanted to go to the bathroom, you were waiting. It felt like opening day. Everybody showed up because they knew the Reds were celebrating Pete Rose. The Reds gave them a perfect excuse to show up to the ballpark. This happened a couple of weeks ago when they had the Ellie De La Cruz switch hitter bobblehead, where, I mean, I showed up 2 hours early. There wasn't a chance in HE double hockey sticks of me getting one of those bobbleheads because I was way too late 2 hours early. They gave them a reason to show up to the ballpark, Steve. And all of this, and this has been a running theme for really the last 30 years with a few exceptions. The running theme is the reason to get to the ballpark is not the product on the field. And we saw it again on Wednesday night. The Reds didn't hit. The Reds were woeful with runners in scoring position. And just by giving up a few good swings to some hitters in the White Sox lineup, they lost. It's unfortunate that we're coming to this point where this team was supposed to be taking the step. This team was supposed to be competing for a division. And now, Steve, it just feels like this team is supposed to at some point get back to 500. And even that feels like it's a stretch.
You and I set Memorial Day as the cutoff. You and I have a June 1st plan where we're going to call this team what it is, but I'm going to give you a preview right now, Jeff. They are an abject failure right now. Mm-hmm. The way that this team is playing, what they have produced is absolutely unacceptable. Terry Francona has not delivered on his offseason promises, and I know it's early, but he's not delivered. Castellinis have never delivered on their promises from the letter they mailed out when they bought the team. The front office, I think, is kind of doing the best it can given the marching orders it gets from the top. You know, I think Nick Kral's job is not in danger because the Castellinis are making money and he's doing what he's told. So Kral's fine. This team is falling on its face. This team we waited for 3 years, Jeff. This team that we waited for, as they told us, the window is coming. The winning is coming. All of these guys are going to hit and they're going to be great. Where are they? Every single one of them's league better or worse. Nobody is producing. Nobody is doing the job they were supposed to do offensively. And the only reason this team is just a few games within 500 is the overachieving of the starting rotation and the bullpen more often than not performing really, really well.
Because we saw what happens when a Reds starting pitcher is fine. You know, he's okay. Nick Lodolo, he was fine on Wednesday night. He wasn't his best self. He wasn't even good. He was fine. But when the starting pitching is fine, the lineup is not good enough to make up for it, and the bullpen just has to constantly pick up the slack. I mean, Scott Barlow, Steve, is on pace to throw like 82 games this season. He has been in a lot of games. I don't know that you can really throw that many games in a season. I'm not sure what the team record is or what the major league record is, but that's got to be pretty close. But I feel like we just keep doing this same thing. And I'm sitting there watching this game on Wednesday night where it's like, okay, we got a lead off double. Let's go. Nothing happens after that. All right, we got a lead off single. Let's go. Nothing happens after that. All right, we got a solo home run. Nothing happens after that. Like, they don't string hits together. They don't build on the momentum that they have in game. And quite frankly, Steve, like, what is this team's personality? Where's the vibes with this team? The vibes were immaculate in the stands on Wednesday night because everybody was there. Jose Trevino, I believe, was in the 8th inning. It was either the 7th or the 8th inning. Jose Trevino hit an infield single, and everybody was so begging for something to happen that you thought they just won because he hit an infield single. Like, the stands erupted. Everybody was loving it. This is where it is so frustrating to watch this ball club because, yes, they had expectations. Yes, they were setting us up for this to be the year that they really took a step forward. And yes, none of that's happened.
Not one single thing. And I blame everybody with the last name Castellini. Well, maybe not all of them, but the two that are running the ship, Bob and Phil, they are the problem. We don't even have any recourse. I see you guys in the comment section, and I see you guys on X and in social, in the direct messages, boycotts and all of the things we got to withhold. It doesn't matter. They get all their money from Major League Baseball before any of us ever show up at the ballpark. And I am not going to let them rob me of my joy of being at the ballpark.
Right.
But we're helpless. We're at the mercy of them maybe finding lightning in a bottle, Jeff, and maybe being able to right the ship and do something. You look around the room right now, and there are so many things to point to that are bad that it's overshadowing some of the things that have been really, really good and the things that these starting pitchers have do. You know, Nick Lodolo goes out and allows 3 runs. That shouldn't be a death sentence. That shouldn't be an automatic loss. It's
right.
An automatic loss for this team right now. If you allow 3 runs.
3 runs against the White Sox, not even like, the Dodgers. It's the White Sox.
So they've squandered so much good pitching. They've squandered so many opportunities. They've blown games they should have won. This team, if it was half the team it was 2 years ago, would be 5 or 6 games over 500 right now. Yeah. I don't understand how they've fallen so far, so fast, Jeff. And it puts us in a position now that we have to ask a really, really, really hard question, because you and I have been hyping up this team since the offseason. And you and I have been telling everybody to be patient. This team is going to go. They are going to go. Well, now the question on the table, and we're going to answer it coming up here in just a minute, Jeff, is this team in a position where we should be calling them a seller? We're going to talk about that coming up next. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled trade professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's all at supplyhouse.com.
Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. And if you're an everydayer, really appreciate you guys joining. Look, we're going to be covering the Cincinnati Reds every single day because we love this team and we love baseball. And as much as certain things may sap our enjoyment of that, we will be here talking about the Reds every single day. Hope you join us along the way. Make sure you subscribe. That way you can. All right, Steve, it is a follow-up question, right? If the Reds are not contenders, what are they? They're not buyers, then what are they? They're sellers. You've got to see what you can get. You got to see what can happen. But I think for right now, they're not sellers yet. However, there's plenty of reasons to make the argument for them being sellers.
There are. And I mean, really, let's break this down systematically. If we're going to talk about buyers or sellers, let's talk about what that would look like. And let's start with them being sellers. If they're sellers, who are you trading away? Like realistically, what pieces do they have that are valuable pieces they could trade away? Maybe a Nick Martinez, but you're not going to get a lot back based on what he's making, and he's on a 1-year deal. Maybe one of the relievers that are in the bullpen down there, somebody that's not top flight, but I don't know.
Brady Singer. I mean, you could trade Brady Singer.
You could trade Brady Singer. You could trade one of the back end A group relievers. I wouldn't advise it. But then you look at the position players. You've got Austin Hayes, who hasn't stayed healthy long enough to really get you much as far as a trade return goes. You've got Jose Trevino, who signed to an extension, who probably gets you the best return. And I agree with you, but if you're looking for something to get a return, if you're selling, if we're selling, he's probably the guy on the team that gets you the best return. Maybe Santiago Espinal gets you a little something in a trade right now, but that's it. You trading Tyler Stevenson? Well, that's not rebuilding. That's not selling. Are you trading? Who else are you trading?
I almost wonder, and I don't think that you trade a core member of the team for prospects, but if you put together a deal that involves a core member of the team, but brings back somebody who could be the core member of the team either right now or next year, maybe you consider that if you're a seller. But that's where this gets murky, right? Because we're talking about the team that is the same team from 2023, largely. The same team from 2024. Largely. Like there's a few differences, but for the most part, the core is the same, and the core is going to be the same next year. If no radical trades are made. There's a couple of guys that are on expiring deals, but those aren't the guys that are part of the core. So when you look at who there is to trade and what you could get back, is it going to radically remake the team? And is it going to radically remake the team for the future? The answer, I think, to both of those is no. So this is where, even if you reach the point that you say definitively, yes, this team is a seller, what are you selling to get? So I still think as frustrating as they have been, we're still holding out that by June 1st, they change our thought process around, because I'm with you. I think that our thought process right now is that it's really hard to take this team seriously as a contender.
Yeah. And if you want to look a buyer, it has to start with what you just said. And it's that thing that we said we weren't going to do anymore, but it's what we have to do. We have to hope. We have to hope that Matt McLain figures it out. We have to hope that Ellie goes back to being superstar Ellie and not league average Ellie. We have to hope that CES comes back and becomes some type of a baseball player. We have to hope that Spencer Steer figures it out, whatever it is that's going on. And then you have to hope, after all of those things, that there's somebody you can go get that helps this team be better. We've said it for 3 years. Outfielder, power hitting outfielder. They could go out and get Aaron Judge right now, and I don't think this team can win.
Yeah, maybe with Aaron Judge. I mean, have you seen Aaron Judge's numbers? Aaron Judge is going crazy right now.
There's going to be a bunch of one-run Reds games from him homering mean, nobody else is ever on base.
But I do feel better about maybe Spencer. Maybe last night was the turning point, right? He had a couple of extra base hits, nice home run. It's so frustrating right now because the slump just doesn't seem to want to end with this team.
Nope.
But I don't think they're sellers. And I think that part of it is just being a seller itself is kind of hard, because the idea of being a seller is you're almost starting a rebuild, or you're in the middle of a rebuild and you've got a number of expiring contracts to offer for prospects. And that's what you're looking for. Like, if Nick Kroll were to step in front of a microphone and say, and break down a trade where the Reds just traded somebody on the major league roster for prospects, what on earth would he say? Because this team has been pointing to this season. And quite frankly, hiring Terry Francona tells you that they think they're close. So to turn around and tell Terry Francona, we just traded one of you dudes for some guy in Double-A. I mean, does Terry Francona even stay around for that?
I wouldn't. I can't imagine that this is why he came out of retirement. He didn't come out for 20 and 24 halfway through May. He didn't come out for that. He didn't come out for a bunch of guys that can't even run the bases. And that's really where we're at right now, Jeff. I don't know what is going on with this team, but the things that were supposed to get better have not gotten better. Production has not gotten better. They are not playing the game the right way. Base running decisions are not better. Fielding is not better. The only thing that's better.
Now, Will Benson was Gold Glove Will Benson was Gold Glove on Wednesday night.
You stop it. You stop it.
I might be getting the push cart back out on that one.
The only thing that's better is the pitching. And
no, you're right. You're right. It's a very frustrating group of players to watch right now. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that the players that they have need to be better, because it doesn't seem like they're going to go make that bold move. Although there's a bold move on the dugout across the diamond from them that's going to be here for one more game. But it also doesn't feel like there's a seller move that gets everything going. And there's nobody. I mean, there's like a couple of pitchers that are closer to the major leagues that you could get excited about, but we've already seen Chase Petty. It's not really a position player that you're going crazy about as far as who's getting ready to make their major league debut in the Reds farm system. So this is the team. The team is on the field. And if you're going to go with this team, there's a move that you can make, and you can't wait to the trade deadline. And I actually had a nice conversation about how the Reds could accomplish that.
All right, Jeff. So with the reported decline of what the White Sox will take back, would this possibly renew the Reds' interest in Luis Robert Jr.?
Absolutely. I think that reportedly the rumors that we had heard and the different trade packages that we heard in the offseason were very concerning, because it was like all of the top prospects, right? Like Chase Petty, Rhett Lauder, and Edwin Arroyo. And then they started talking like things like that. And quite frankly, I think if it were one of those guys and then maybe like a mid-level prospect or maybe two of those guys and that was it, I would definitely be into it. And I know that the White Sox were among the teams that during the offseason, whenever they were discussing trades, they were also discussing major league players, because that was something that Nick Kroll said was a big hang-up for him. So whenever they talked to teams, they weren't just looking for prospects. They were looking for major league talent at the same time. I think if you're talking about a trade package now that is built around prospects, and if it's a major league guy, it's a guy that can kind of be a bridge to another player, I think that's a much more palatable situation for the Reds.
Yeah, I think Chris Getz completely overplayed his hand in the offseason when, I mean, I had no problem with going for Cam Collier or Sal Stewart. It was when he went a bridge too far and tried to throw in Rhett Lauder. But if Luis Robert Jr. starts to continue to produce at the plate, because it sounds like, they're willing to maybe take pennies on the dollar because the White Sox are so afraid that he's going to get hurt. And he's got knee soreness. He should be back in the lineup, but obviously he's got knee soreness. If he starts to produce at the plate, would there be a consideration to maybe up the offer to beat the Mets? Maybe, include some of those guys in the top 10, maybe, because I know the Reds, 5-6 guys now in the new recently MLB pipeline top 100.
I think that there would definitely be a renewed interest. It's tough because I've had some folks ask me, they're like, well, Blake Tidwell, that's the Mets number 15 guy, our number 15 guy. And I'm like, whoa. That's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking like teams don't have the MLB pipeline list and they're going, okay, they're number 15 guy or they're number 15 guy. They've got scouting reports that are far beyond what we see from the different websites that we are privy to. So I think that really when you look at it, Blake Tidwell is a 23-year-old right-handed pitcher who's at the AAA level. He's close to being ready. I think the Reds can definitely counter that with Chase Petty. And then I almost would be willing, and I kind of think this gets this done. I don't necessarily know what the Mets would be offering, but I think that if it were an offer of Chase Petty and Edwin Arroyo, I would do that deal. Because Edwin Arroyo is a very good shortstop, but he's blocked. And I don't know that the Reds are ready to move Ellie De La Cruz just because Edwin Arroyo is ready next year. And I don't necessarily know, because they have not played Edwin Arroyo at other positions that much in the minor leagues, that they're going to move Edwin Arroyo for that. So I think that the Reds are just kind of looking for the right deal to include Edwin Arroyo. And I think this would be that deal. The Reds just traded for Connor Joe the other day because they're looking for whatever they can get in the outfield. Luis Roberts, way better than Connor Joe. I know that. And I know that he's probably better than what the Reds currently have at any of the outfield positions, assuming that he stays healthy, which has always been the biggest question with him. But I still think that would be the kind of swing. Like if I saw the Reds make that trade, I'd be super excited.
Well, actually, on the White Sox side, I'd be super excited too, because Chase Petty is a guy that could actually pitch in the majors right now, and they do need a starter because, Bryce Wilson, he's been a decent opener, but he can only get through 4 or 5 innings. So if you're willing to offer that, hey, sign me up. And is Edwin Arroyo, right? He's the one that's out for the year, though, right? Or is it?
No, he's back. He's back. He was out last year. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. But even then, I would take that in a heartbeat, of course. I mean, because you're talking about, the top 15 prospect in the Mets. And I know it's not 1-for-1, but the one thing I did want to ask you, though, there is a way, though, that the Mets, say it was 1-for-1. The Mets have Connor Phillips. Obviously, his numbers are very high at AAA in terms of his ERA, but he has made it to the majors already. So let's say that's where Nick Kroll starts at. He said, hey, you're going to take the 15th prospect. Obviously, they all have their different rankings. What would the White Sox even be getting then?
Connor Phillips would be interesting because he has gone through, trying to think of a synonym to rough patch, but it's been a heck of a rough patch. I mean, he was up in the majors for a little bit there at the end of the 2023 season, and he pitched in that final game that really sort of knocked the Reds out of the playoffs, and he didn't get out of the first inning. It was a really rough outing for him, and ever since then, it seems as though he's lost the strike zone, and now they are pitching him as a relief pitcher. They are looking to see, there are some reports, and they're unsubstantiated, but I've heard some rumors that he goes through a thing. Like once he gets to about 30 pitches, his arm changes and he just doesn't quite have the longevity to be a starting pitcher. So right now, I think, and this was even guessed at whenever he was acquired from the Mariners, is that eventually he would move to the bullpen. I think we're seeing that now. I think we're seeing what the Reds can get out of him in the bullpen. So that being a 1-for-1 comparison to Blake Tidwell, you're definitely taking Tidwell over Phillips right now. As much as I would love to see the Reds just trade Connor Phillips and get Luis Robert, that would definitely be a big fleece because right now Connor Phillips does not look like a starting pitcher.
Yeah, and the only reason why I bring him up is I'm actually very impressed by your generous offer of Chase Petty and Edwin Arroyo. It's just the reason why is just anything I've ever read and even just hearing GM Chris Getz on the Sox side is saying is he's basically thinking Luis Robert Jr. is still at the 2023 value, where I think he's somewhere in between. He's somewhere, obviously, I don't think he's 2024 level where he's always injury prone. I think that's something to point out, but he is a guy that has shown in 2025 that yes, he's still struggling at the plate, but he can still beat you sometimes by himself with his bat, with his glove and on the base pass all in one game. Just ask the Milwaukee Brewers. That happened last week. So that's the reason why I'm just asking is I could see teams, though, still countering and be like, I'm only going to give you a top 15 prospect. So one top 15 prospect when I was looking over the list. And again, like you said, everybody's got different lists. So Hector Rodriguez, number 11, say that gets the deal done. Is that a bridge too far? And the reason why I want to bring that up is he's crossed the AA threshold. And usually for small market teams, once you get to AA, and if you prove you can hit, you're probably in the core.
Yeah. And he, without a doubt, looks like the best outfield prospect that the Reds have in the system, because the issue that they will be addressing this or this trade deadline, they should be addressing, because they've not addressed it for multiple years now, is the outfield. And it's not just a now issue, it's a future issue as well, because even as good as TJ Friedl has been when he is healthy, he's 29. It's not as if he just began a long career. And you might still have him for 3 or 4 years. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but coming behind him is not a lot. I mean, Hector Rodriguez is the best that they've got coming up. They've tried Blake Dunn. They've tried Jacob Hurtubise. They're trying Reese Hines. They're trying Will Benson. Both of those guys have a lot of question marks surrounding them that they are going to have to answer before you can consider them part of the future of this team. And while Hector Rodriguez has not made a major league debut, just like you said, he's gotten to AA, and we're starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, we're really beginning to count on him as part of the future of the team. I don't necessarily know that that makes him untradeable. The Reds' outfield future is so very up in the air right now. And that's another reason why they need a guy like Luis Robert that has multiple years of team control, because you can keep him in the outfield for multiple years and expect him to grow maybe a little bit more into his game. While you look at other options, like they signed Austin Hayes to a 1-year prove-it deal. As much as he has looked nice in 16 games, it's hard to say, yeah, let's give him a long-term contract and the outfield is set with him. So you need to make that kind of a big move. I think that Hector Rodriguez would be interesting to me. I would be a little bit more hesitant for him than Arroyo, simply because Arroyo's blocked and Rodriguez is not. And I think that Chase Petty is coming from an angle, and there's going to be some folks, because every team has this, right? White Sox fans, there are certain White Sox fans that are like, we call them prospect huggers, right? They really like to hold up. Yeah, Reds, there's some Reds fans like that too. And there's going to be that group of people that's mad at me for even considering allowing Chase Petty and Edwin Arroyo to be available in this trade, but the Reds fancy themselves a pitching factory, and Edwin Arroyo is blocked. Seems like an easy trade offer for me.
A couple, though, I'm still going through therapy through last summer when I proposed, I think, what was it, Garrett Crochet to the Cincinnati Reds. My gosh, the Reds, firestorm back at me. But yeah, the reason why, why I was saying is generous. Chase Petty for Edwin Arroyo. If, obviously I think that might happen more if they keep Luis Robert Jr. until the trade deadline, although it sounds like they want to get him off the roster by Memorial Day for the fear of injury. But right now they do need a shortstop in their system, because Colson Montgomery, he literally got basically pulled off the road, got sent to Arizona, working on a swing. He just got back to AAA, Charlotte. Caleb Bonemer, he's at low A. So obviously, yes, you would like to have more swings at the wheel. So that's why I'm saying that if it's Chase Petty and Edwin Arroyo, I would drive Luis Robert Jr. to the airport myself.
They got to make a move, Steve. I know this. Like, we're to the point where just watching this team, like, it just feels like every play that they make, you're like, you need to make a move. You need to make a move.
Watching a Reds game right now is like looking at a train wreck. You know what's happening and you can't look away. That's what watching this team feels like right now. And you're absolutely right. They've got to do something. They've got to shake it up. They have got to try.
It's like that TikTok video of the guy that tried to tow his girlfriend's car. Did you see that one where, like, he hooked up her car to the back of his SUV with like a chain, and it's just whipping all about on the highway? Like, the best of intentions, but quite frankly, there was never going to be the sort of success that you expected from that. And that's what that feels like right now. Like, the Reds have to change this, and it feels like that move would make that change. But that's where we're going to end today's podcast. Thank you so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. Hopefully we got some happier things tomorrow. We're going to talk about some baseball because I want to see how Will Benson follows up that amazing performance that he had on Wednesday night. We might be getting the hype cart back out. The hype train might be getting back on the tracks here, Steve. We'll be talking about that and more on the next Locked On Reds podcast. Make sure that you join us. Hit that subscribe button. We'll be here with you all along the way, all throughout the season, all throughout the off season. Why, Steve?
Because we're not riding the Will Benson hype train. No, we're gathering up the news, the notes, the information, the rumors, and the reports, and keeping you locked on Reds every single day.
You're going to get back on the train, Steve. You're going to get back on the train.
It's not going to happen.